Hi, welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek. I hope everyone had a great week. And so here I go. You're in for 30 minutes of bliss, or 30 minutes of my rambling. Today, I only have one book. So I thought I would start with the books. And I know you're probably groaning, getting ready to turn it off or jump ahead. But I'm going to start with this book. It's called Birdman by Mo Hader. Now, the reason I read this book is because Plagued by Vision is a YouTuber that I just recently found out about it. Found out about his channel. Recommend this as one of the most disturbing books that he'd ever read. And so, I know I sound like I'm kind of this weird sicko, but I like all different kinds of genres, and I don't mind reading about disturbing things. So I wanted to give some of the books on that list a try. In fact, I'd already read a couple on the list. So this one is Birdman by Mo Hader, and I finished it today. And then after I was done, I researched the author, and I was shocked because Mo Hader was a pen name, and it was written by a female writer named Claire Dunkel. Now, I'm not shocked that a female can write books that stupid, but I was shocked because this is a serial killer novel, and I don't want to give anything away in case if you're interested in it, but it's hard not to give things away, right? But so anyways, the serial killer is obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but almost all serial killers are male. So she writes through the serial killer's point of view, from the police officers' points of view, also some of the victims. But it never occurred to me that this was a female writer because of the way she portrayed the male serial killer, right? I've read so many of these, I guess, is what I should say, that it didn't occur to me that this was a female writer. And that's a really good thing. I was genuinely shocked by that. And this was her first novel. And unfortunately, I also found out that she died in 2021. And I liked it so much that I went ahead and put on hold. Well, I already got it from the library. The next one, which is called The Treatment. Now, is the novel disturbing? Yes, it is. There's a lot of sadism, torture. It's a police procedural. Even the lead police officer has some trauma in his background that he's dealing with still as an adult. And I mean, that kind of thing is typical in police procedural. The detective always has a reason why he or she became a detective. And but there's some things in this book that were hard for me to stomach. And it's going to sound strange, but I have real trouble with animal cruelty. And you might, humans are tortured throughout this whole book, and it's described, but for some reason I can dissociate from that, because I tell myself it's just a novel. It's not real. It's like when I watch a horror movie. It's not real. It's okay. Like I can dissociate from it. But when it involves animal torture, I don't know why that affects me more. I can't dissociate from it. So there's a couple of instances of not only human torture, but animal torture. And like I said, that's hard for me to stomach. So that was the book Birdman by Mo Hader, and I liked it so much that I want to read more by this author. Now, this genre is not one of my favorites. What normally happens with these type of books is I read them, they're very similar, and then I end up not remembering much because they're so similar. Not that they're poorly written. I've read so many novels like this that are good, but it's just not my favorite genre. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about some movies. I actually have quite a few. And the first one I want to talk about is one that I had watched last week, but I forgot to mention. And so I watched the new version of Hellraiser. And I'm going to say that I only watched it because it was Hellraiser. I didn't have high expectations. and it ended up being really good. Now, is it a really good movie? I wouldn't go that far, but it was way better than I thought it would be. And I would recommend it. If you're a horror film fan, then you need to watch this movie, Hellraiser, and I think it's on Netflix or Hulu. It's one of the two. And the whole time I was watching it, I was like, who is that actress? Who is that actress? Okay, and so I had seen this actress before, the one who plays the new Pinhead. And that actress was in Sense8. And that was like a really interesting connection because I talked about a movie, a remake of a movie last week, which was Mas Negro que la Noche, a new version. And an actress from Sense8 was in that, so there's kind of a connection. Woo! I found a connection. Okay. So, like I said, yeah, go ahead and watch that. Now, the next movie we watched was called Macario. And this was on the list of the 10 or 15 most interesting or most necessary Mexican horror movies, which I've been trying to go through. And I'm going to say that was a misnomer. This movie, Macario, is not a horror movie at all. So here's the picture that goes with it, Macario. Let me try to go up. Now, there's going to be a couple movies that I talk about today that I'm going to highly recommend, and this is one of them. I was so pleasantly surprised. It's not a horror movie at all. Oh, I just remembered another movie I watched that I didn't write down. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly add that to my notes. It's not a horror movie at all. And what was interesting about this movie is that it was Mexico's first submission for the Academy Awards to be considered for Best Foreign Film. And this movie came out in 1960. And it's so good. So number one, throughout the movie, you're going to see lots of interesting examples of Mexican culture and tradition and heritage. It's really nice. So you should definitely watch that. Oh, you know what? I might be mistaken. You might not see the Mexican tradition. But anyways, it takes place in Mexico. But the story is one of those really interesting stories. So I'm going to kind of just give a little bit of a spoiler because it happens at the beginning. So Macario and his family are super poor. He doesn't even have enough food to feed his children. And so he's so ashamed and depressed about it. He works so hard. And he gets so frustrated. And at one point, he's just like, I wish I just had a turkey that I could just eat all for myself. Because he sees other people, like rich people, eating turkeys. And he's like, every night, he gives his food to his children to eat because they're so hungry, and he doesn't get much to eat. And he, in a bout of selfishness, he says, I wish I just had my own turkey. I wouldn't share it with anyone. It would be all mine. And so, in an act of desperation, his wife steals a turkey from the rich people in town. She does it on impulse. There's a yard full of turkeys. She sees all the smug rich people. They slam the door in her face, and she's like, forget it. And she steals the turkey, and she gives it to him. Okay, that's the very beginning. Sorry, I am kind of spoiling it, right? But it's such a good movie. So anyway, I'm going to keep spoiling it. So he goes off in the country to eat his turkey, and this is where it begins. He's visited by 3 apparitions. And I'm going to stop there because that's just the beginning. I highly, highly recommend, if you like old movies, you've got to see this one, Macario from 1960. That is a highly recommended movie. I liked it all the way through the end. It kept me, it's not like so complex, but I really wanted to find out what would happen to these characters. I got involved in their lives, in their plight of poverty. And it was interesting where it went and why. Just Macario. It's one of the ones that I think you need to see. I'm going to cough. Okay, sorry about that. I've been talking a lot at school because I've been doing a procedural thing with the students where I have to walk them through something step by step. So it's been a lot of talking on my part. All right. So the next movie is called Ladrón de Calaveras. Sorry. My husband got mad at me. It's Cadáveres. Oh, it's Cadáveres. He got mad because I was trying to pronounce it in the English way, but it's Cadáveres. So basically it means body snatchers. And this is from 1957, and although it was interesting, it was weird. Okay? It basically turned out to be a wrestling movie. It was like watching one of those Santos movies, right? But with a twist. So basically, these people are stealing bodies because they're doing an experiment. And it made absolutely no sense. They put a dead body of a guy on one side of a machine. They put a monkey on the other side. They strapped them together. And then the person would come back to life, but as a creature. It made no sense scientifically. And I just was like, what? And I had to just forget it. I mean, it was just a silly wrestling horror movie. And this was what they created. So the first half of the movie, it's like 3 movies. It's like a wrestling movie. And then it was like Frankenstein, where they're gathering bodies and taking the body parts. And then the third part was like King Kong. And this was the King Kong monster climbing up the building. And, it was... This movie is not going to be one that I recommend, but it was funny. And it was true B-movie schlock. So if you're interested and you want to laugh at the science and this is it. Ladrón de Cadáveres from 1957. All right, the next movie is called, I have to read it from here, El Esqueleto de la Señora Morales. El Esqueleto. It basically means the skeleton of Miss Morales. Okay, now, this movie, I just thought, okay, whatever. It's going to be another B movie. This is going to be another movie that I'm going to highly, highly recommend that you watch. I was so shocked at how good this movie is. So when they write here, right there it says a masterpiece. It is so good. I got so wrapped up. The characters, and it's a dark comedy. So I don't like comedies per se. I do like dark comedies. And this one is very, very dark. And then before I watched the movie, I found out that this is from a short story by Arthur Machen. So I've read stories by him before. So this movie was made into a comedy, and I don't think the original story, I don't think the original was a comedy. And as I was watching the movie, I was like, I'm pretty sure I read the story, but I went through my books and I couldn't find it. So I'm not sure if I had or not. But the premise seemed like I was familiar with it. Well, anyways, this story is basically the henpecked husband. So he's married to this woman who's a hypochondriac. She won't let him anywhere near her. And when he goes and tries to talk to her, she starts screaming for the neighbors. She's like, he goes to talk to her and she pretends like he's beating her, and she's screaming, "No, don't hit me anymore. No, please. No." And she's screaming it out the window for all the neighbors, and he's just standing there like, seriously. And then the neighbors come over and take retribution on him. So anyways, maybe it sounds silly, but this movie is so good. I'm laughing thinking about it. It's such a good movie. You have to watch it. So I don't think I've ever really recommended, of all the movies that I've been reviewing, I've never recommended that you watch any of them. And now I've got 2. Okay? Macario and the skeleton of Miss Morales. They're both amazing movies. You have to watch them. I don't know if I have to say that. You've got to watch these. Please, someone watching this video, please watch one of these and then comment on it, because I really want to know what you think. Such good movies. And now I'm going to come to a movie. Oh my gosh. So I was watching Flick Connection. I really like his YouTube channel a lot. And Flick Connection, it came up, the best movies on Tubi, right? Free. I've been watching a lot of these movies from Tubi, and I thought, okay, well, let me see what else is available, because, Tubi has a lot of crap, to be honest, but a lot of good movies too, so it's hard to sift through. So I wrote down a bunch of the movies that he recommended, and I was really interested in what he had to say about this movie called Martyrs. Okay, that's the movie poster for it, Martyrs. And he did warn me. He's like, this is not for the faint of heart, but it's going to shock you. It's going to surprise you. It's going to do this and do that. He was absolutely right. From the beginning, it hits you. It's like you get shocked. You get this. It changes. The movie changes. It's scene after scene. Like, I jumped quite a few times just from the shock of what happens in the movie. But this movie is disgusting. Like, I'm not used to the level of torture and everything that goes on in this movie. But it's gratuitous, but it's done for a reason. And he was like, if you stick it out through the end, you will understand everything. And it had this weird philosophy behind it that was oddly compelling. But I'm going to tell you, it's like in 3 parts. And the third part of the movie, like the first 2 parts of the movie, it's like bam, 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 bam. It's like hitting you. But the third part slows down, and it's like torture. And I mean like literal torture. So, I don't know to recommend this movie. If you are into some kind like bloody movies with lots of torture, this movie's for you. Okay, for the casual, if you have a weak stomach, do not watch this movie. I'm glad I watched it. It was a really weird, strange, bloody movie, and the problem is, so many of the movies these days with horror is on torture lines, and I don't like that. I don't like human torture movies, and I don't like torture porn. But the reason that it was done was like compelling. It wasn't just somebody who was a sadist who's running around torturing people. And not only that, the whole, like the last third of the movie was frightening in what it was implying. So, I don't know. If you're interested, just beware. Martyrs. Flick Connection, I think you did me wrong, but you did me right. Okay. And then the final movie that I forgot to write about or get an example of was last night we watched El Noa Noa, which was a kind of a biopic of Juan Gabriel. I don't know if you know him. My husband really wanted to watch this. I was like, okay, super low budget. It was basically a vehicle for him to sing. Now, Juan Gabriel is super famous for being gay, and that was not even touched on in this biopic, so I knew that was going to bother me right from the beginning, because how do you give a story of someone's life and leave out their sexuality, right? And he's running around with, this woman, and it's hinted that they were kissing and being together, and I wasn't having any of it. Plus, Juan Gabriel, God rest his soul, was so effeminate. Even in the scenes where he's walking around, I'm sorry, that sounds bad, but I was like, how is anyone going to not know that he's gay, right? So, I was a little disappointed, and it's not that great of a movie, but you got to hear his songs, and you got to see, a bit of like the underbelly of Mexican life, because he was really poor when he was young, and then when he was trying to make it, he was like poor and living in this home with all these other people. And I mean, it had its virtues, but I'm not recommending this movie at all, especially since it's not true to its subject matter. All right. The last thing that I want to talk to you about before I go on to music is I did read this comic this week, which is She-Hulk. I might do a video on it. But not many people watch my comic videos, so I'm not sure if I am. So I read the complete collection of She-Hulk by Charles Soule. I'm not sure if that's Soule or Soule, but I'm just going to say Soule. And I was really interested in this because I had read the other collection. It's actually 2 volumes, a complete collection, and that one was done by it's a famous David something. Okay, I forgot. But those 2 focused on her being a lawyer and helping super powered people. And then this was in the same vein. So I really enjoyed the other 2 complete collections, and I really enjoyed this. Now, one problem that I anticipated is when I was looking through it, I didn't like the art style of this one. It was too, for me, kind of cartoony. And I'll give you some other example. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, like to me, it was too simple and too kind of cartoony. And I don't normally like that style, but it actually worked. I got used to it. And in fact, the artist changed a couple times. And in one, for example, one issue begins like this. And I don't know if you can see it, but the perspective on this is all weird. So She-Hulk is talking to this guy who's in his open apartment door. And it's just the perspective is all weird, and the art was strange. And I didn't like this art at first, but it kind of really grew on me. So I'm gonna say like look at this. She's fighting Titania, and I mean the art is. I would not normally like this type of art. It's too cartoonish for me, but I ended up really liking it, and I think it was because of the writing. The writing was consistent throughout, and I got through it super fast, so it was an easy read. And some of the cases that she tackles are really interesting. She meets up with Daredevil like she does in the show, and there's a 3-issue arc where she's going up against Matt Murdock in court, who is Daredevil, and she's defending Captain America, but it was a case from before he took the super soldier serum. Oh my god, I just realized how nerdy I just got. Okay, let's go. She-Hulk. I recommend this one. I do. It's a quick read. The art is interesting. It fits the story. The court cases, I like the fact that this is moving away from just like superhero stuff, but includes both like courts and all that kind of thing. So anyways, She-Hulk. Now this week I didn't buy anything. I didn't really get anything in the mail from Amazon, so I don't have anything new to show. But I did a bunch of my VC recommends. I had been listening to so many of them. I have them in a Spotify playlist, and I just, every day I put on the playlist and I listen to them, and I just never got around to making the videos. And I said to myself this week, okay, you know what? You're just going to get them done. So one every night. So I did Presto by Rush, Ultraviolet by the Dream Syndicate. That was a shortening of the title. First Base by Babe Ruth, and Songs by Rotary Connection. And so if you're interested, I put reviews of those albums and what I thought. And I have 3, I'm calling them arena videos. It's where I've challenged people. I have 3 of them. I'm going to work on one tonight, and I'm going to have 1 or 2, both of them done by tomorrow. So that's where I've challenged another person, and I've given them something to listen to, and they give me something. And I have 2 set up for next week. And so musically, I've been very, very busy, because these challenges, even though, you see one video, for me, I try to spend a week preparing for it. I actually want to listen to the music 2 times every day for a week. And if I don't do that, I don't feel like I'm doing the recording justice, right, when I do the reviews. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about, you know what? I didn't think I would go 30 minutes, and I'm already 26. So, man, can I just blather on? So the last thing I want to talk about is Good69. He said, in one of his comments, he'd written that he'd been to the United States, and he went to Chicago. So I said, oh no, he'd been to the States recently. And I said, hey, what was the highlight of your trip? And he said he went to Chicago and he met Jacques Fresco. And I was like, okay, well, who's that? So I looked him up, and it was before school. I didn't really have time. And I saw pictures of like buildings, and I wrote him, hey, is he an architect? And he was like, no, dummy. He's not. He didn't write that. No, dummy. And so I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't have time. I was on my way to work. And so afterwards, he's like, hey, why don't you watch this video? And it was on YouTube. So I did. It was about, I'm not sure if I watched the correct one, but I watched a 45-minute video on Jacques Fresco and his ideas. So he's kind of a philosopher. And it was called Venus Project, A New World System. And I really, really, really highly recommend that any of you watch that. It's a quick 45 minutes, right? And it basically puts forth this world philosophy that is so enticing. It starts off by saying, what if we could get rid of money? I mean, I'm not sure if it starts out that way, but what if we could feed everyone in the world? What if we didn't have money? What if we can give up property? What if we could give everybody their needs and their wants without this system of money? Could we do it as a species? And he lays it out that yes, we could totally do this. And the way that he puts it out in the video, he makes it seem like this is possible. Like humans are really squandering their potential. And it's so true. Now, when you look around this room, I've got all this stuff, right? But in his philosophy, we wouldn't need all this, because there would be some kind of central system where if I wanted something, I would have access to it. It's there for the taking. So, for example, if I wanted to play that game or read that book, number one, it would all be available online for free to everybody. Or if you really wanted a physical copy, there could be a library that you could get it from. There's also this idea of, I'm not sure if it was presented in this video, but 3D printing is a concept that is here. And the idea is, if we need something, we could 3D print it. From now, I'm just going to say print it instead of 3D print it. We could print it, and then when we were done with it, we can put it back. And the materials for it could be reabsorbed for the next item that we were going to print. And I read a sci-fi novel where there was a colony on another world, and they had very limited resources, and they used that idea of everybody got an allotment of how many resources, how much they could print, and then when they were done, they would just put it right back in, and it would be recycled for the next item that you would print. And when I look around my room right here, and I see all the stuff, I know this is bad, because basically on YouTube, we are collectors, and I'm not saying that's bad, but I kind of wonder, is it necessary? If everything were available to everyone at all times, that would eliminate the need for collecting, and it would eliminate the need for me, to save up money so that I could buy things. And the whole idea is fascinating, because what if we could feed everyone in the world and not suffer? And I think of all the energy I spend, on my collection, and I could be better doing things to help others, or I don't know. It's a big can of worms, but the whole idea is so intriguing. And humans really do need to take that next step, right? I mean, we're already pretty much there. If I want to watch something, if I want to listen to something, like if I want to watch something, I'm watching all these movies free on Tubi. When I want a book from an audiobook, I'm getting it free from the library. If I want to read it, I could get it free from the library too, right? An ebook. It's there. It's within our reach. Like, we don't... And another thing is, I could live way out in the country and I would still have access to everything. I don't need to be in a city anymore. Things are delivered to us, which that's another issue. Like, all the packaging with Amazon and all that. That's a huge problem we're going through right now. Where... Well, I probably shouldn't say this, because I do it all the time too. Where I don't think of the world, I think of my convenience. So if I really want something, I go ahead and order it from Amazon, it arrives. But, what about all the cost involved in that, all the waste involved in that? I don't wait until I have 5 or 6 things that I need. I'll just go ahead and order one thing, which I don't do that because I don't have Prime membership. But it's really strange. But anyways, what I'm saying is that this video, The Venus Project, A New World System, really brought up a lot of really interesting ideas and concepts. And so I thank Guz69 for, making me aware of this video. And I would love to learn more about this, and I think I will. I'm going to delve a little bit deeper. So I only saw a 45-minute documentary. So I know that if I scratch and go below the surface, I'm going to find more. So that is my Friday night chat. I went a couple minutes over. I'm at almost 33 minutes. So forgive me. I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you will see me in the arena. I've got 2 videos coming up.